Hello. So, what if I told you that there's basically no difference between the Western parenting and African parenting as we know it? Okay, wait, before you swallow me, let me explain what I mean. What makes African parenting African is the fact that culture has been infused into it. It's the same thing that makes the Western style of parenting Western because of the culture infused into it. So, for an African child, for example, we are raised to call our elderly ones not by their names, We say Mrs., Miss, Auntie, Mommy, Daddy, we use all of those suffixes and respectful titles. Whereas in the Western type, in the Western climate, in the Western culture, you can call somebody older than you by name. I mean, in the Western climate, I can call someone who is an 80-year-old Greg. I mean, that's his name. And that will still be termed respectful. Whereas in Africa, if you call him Greg, you are literally finished. Now, when I say there's really no difference between the African style and the Western style, what I'm saying is that the foundation of parenting, which is hinged on love, respect, and open communication, is the same across board. Now, in Africa, when we say a child is spoiled, what do we literally mean? We're saying things like, this child did not turn out well. The values, not my word, values you're trying to infuse into this child did not get it. What basically makes the Western and African style of parenting what they are is the infusion of culture. If you take out culture from parenting and we go to the very basics, a good parent or good parenting styles is completely hinged on these three parameters. First, there's love. The child knows that he or she is loved by the parent, and the parent also is aware that my child loves me, right? So parenting is hinged on love. The second is respect. I had released a video earlier talking about the fact that parenting is a partnership, and I did not even mean partnership between father and mother. A webinar is coming in the next couple of weeks where I'll be talking about the parent-adolescent relationship matrix. In that webinar, I'm going to deal with partnership dynamics, right? But for that particular video, I spoke about parent-child partnership, right? So the first is open communication. The second is respect. Compliance should not be coerced. It should be willing. And one way to get willing compliance is to be respectful towards your teenager, your child. And then the very third thing is to have a listening ear. I mean, you have to be the kind of parent that is psychologically safe. You cannot be toxic. You have to be a psychologically safe haven. So these are the three major bedrocks upon which a good parenting foundation is laid. Now, when the separation came in, so wanting to categorize African parenting, Western parenting, one of the major characteristics of African parenting is really abuse. Verbal abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, etc. And one of the downsides to the Western parenting is too much leniency, boundaries are not set. Either of both extremes are wrong. I mean, when boundaries are too set, too tight, too rigid, excessive, it's a problem. And that's what's found many times in the African style of parenting. In the Western style of parenting, on the other hand, what's basically found in excess is leniency, no boundaries. So while here there's excessive discipline, here there's literally absent discipline. While here there is command and coercion, here there's really no sense of direction. The parent is mostly directionless, basically allowing the child to do whatever he or she wants to do. Either or both extremes are problems. They're both problems. So when I say there's basically no difference between the African style of parenting and the Western style of parenting, I'm saying both parenting styles have their extremes. Right, so when African parents are saying, no, how can I discipline my child? Or how can I not discipline my child? They're always telling me, I shouldn't beat my child, I shouldn't shout on my child. If I don't do that, this child is going to get spoiled. On the other hand, the Western parents are saying, how can you tell me to beat my child, to discipline my child? If I do that, it's abuse. I'm going to be abusing my child. How would my child turn out right? You see what I'm saying? There's basically no difference in the problems faced by both cadres of parenting. The real problem, however, is the fact that both parenting styles have not understood the fact that have not understood that whether there's discipline or no discipline, the three bedrocks I mentioned earlier must be present. So if my culture in Africa permits me to be a very harsh parent, I'm going to be asking you very simple questions. Yes, you're harsh because you're trying to ensure that your child does not deviate from the values you're trying to hand out. The first question I'm asking you is your child truly imbibing those values? Does your child understand what it is you're trying to communicate? Or are you just shoving it down his throat, or just shouting it at him and believing he understands? Parenting in the 21st century is hinged a lot of times on open communication. Parents must understand their adolescents, their children, their teenagers. Their teenagers, children, adolescents must also understand their parents. When you're always shouting and verbally abusing and physically abusing, you're not doing that. You're basically not parenting. You are just dominating. We don't want parents who dominate. We want parents who share responsibility, share power. Yeah, we want parents who can share power. As a parent, I want to be able to know that when I leave this place, my child will do exactly what it is I want them to do without me feeling scared. But when you're always screaming, you're always shouting, you're always beating, you're always disciplining, you know in your heart of hearts that when you are absent, your child will definitely deviate. I say it over and again that the African style of parenting breeds children to become rebellious. And if your child fortunately does not turn out rebellious, you're going to make that child turn out dependent. That's right. That child will either turn out rebellious or turn out dependent, unable to make decisions on his own because all his life or all her life, he or she has been commanded on what to do, never taking initiative to do certain things on their own. So that's also a problem. The truth is that I know many African families who had to leave Africa to the Western world. You know, when they got there and they found out that they couldn't beat their children anymore or, shout at them anymore because, they could call social services and all, it became a problem. They didn't know any other method of parenting. I mean, they literally began to have problems with their children. These were children, when they were in Nigeria or other African countries, you could just slap at will. In Nigeria, we say things like Igbati, Baru, Igbaju, Abara, all of those very, very funny ways of slapping and resetting the child's brain. But when they travel out, they find out that these methods are no longer possible in that particular social climate. And then they get stuck. They get stuck. It's one of the reasons we actually released our course titled Engaging the World of Adolescence. The first cohort is about to end and we are taking the registration for the second cohort. I mean, if you would really, really love to participate in this course, I'd advise that you join in, join the waiting list because because the price might not be the same anymore, we got a sponsor to take care of some of the costs. So that's why it's at this price. But as soon as we get the particular number of students who are looking for the number that the sponsorship covers, it's going to go back to the original price. So I'd advise you jump on this, you take advantage of this, because it's going to show you how to thrive in whatever social space you find yourself in, either in the Western world or in the African climate, how to be the best parent you possibly can be. So like I said earlier, there really is no difference between the African style of parenting and the Western style of parenting.